ReZero Starting Life in Another World, Volume 25. We have finally reached the climax of Arc 6, and if you have vertigo, do not look down, my friend, because we have reached peak! Volume 25 is a phenomenal ending to Arc 6 that answers a lot of questions while creating new ones, which is just great, because now I'm even more hyped for Arc 7 to get to know what happens next. You would think that after 25 volumes plus side stories, the series would start to lose some steam, but it just doesn't, it keeps going. This series just narratively grabs me by the balls, and I'm not entirely sure that's the correct metaphor here, but my love for ReZero is just like Satela's love for Subaru. It's obsessive, it's unhealthy, and drives everybody away. Today, comparisons are not my strong suit, so let's move on. There's lots of stuff to talk about and also some minor criticisms that I do have for this volume, so let's start right away as usual with the cover. I cannot believe we have made it through arcs 3, 5 and 6 and we have still not had a Julius cover. It just feels so awkward. Volume 9 was the perfect place for it, and we had a mid Emilia cover, and I like Emilia, but she was far from the highlight in Volume 9. Oh, but Julius was in X4. Yeah, and so was everybody else. Plus, that's not a main story volume, so it doesn't count. Justice for Julius aside, this cover is awesome. The Gluttony siblings get the spotlight they deserve, and they all look unnerving and creepy with their weird smiles. Lai and Roy especially, their face is the stuff of nightmares. If I woke up in the middle of the night and saw these faces, I would just rather go back to sleep instead of addressing whatever this is. These people have issues. Slightly less creepy is Louie in the middle, spinning with her hair twirling, providing a great sense of motion. She just looks cute and carefree. I will say this though, because I saw it and now you have to see it too, because Louie is at a sideways angle, her backhand just looks so tiny. Look at that tiny hand, it's like a gag from Deadpool. It just hypnotizes me. Speaking of size though, this book for ReZero standards is quite thick, and speaking of thick, Shaula. I may be underslept, bear with me here. Shaula's evolution, or should I say devolution as a character, is not where I expected her to go. I expected that either she would part ways after Arc 6 in some fashion, or that much like Beatrice, she would be relieved of her duties and join the Emilia camp after this arc. What I did not expect was that there would be no way to stop her rampage and that she would have to be defeated and subsequently turned into a tiny scorpion, which... still hot. And I cannot believe that much like the author did for Rem, he gave Shaula a fake-out, dreamlike scenario that never materializes. In this scenario also, it has to be said, Subaru once again exchanges bodily fluids with a lady that is hundreds of years old. He is certainly not beating the old lady enthusiast allegations. This fake-out feels cruel because the reader by the end of Arc 6 is attached to Shaula, at least I was, totally unrelated to her very healthy character design, but she was a misfit, she was kind of a dork, she did her best for the people she loved, and she even had a backstory that spans hundreds of years, so she was the perfect fit for the next member of the Emilia camp. And yet, after teasing us with it, the author takes it away, and I have to say this, Mr. Tappei, if you're listening, you are a sick, disturbed man, and after you finish ReZero, I hope that you get the help that you need. And this isn't even the worst thing he did in this volume, I'll get to Rem in a bit. I'm very curious where the tiny scorpion storyline goes. I guess they could do a parallel of what Subaru went through in this arc with Shaula, or they could just keep her as a small pet to sell merch, which is also a viable option, I guess, but I trust the author will not waste potential like that. I think he'll do the more interesting choice. Let's jump to Shaula's alleged master Subaru and let's see if we can make sense of this mess he's in. Despite losing his memories, Subaru is still Subaru, and that means he will keep pushing through no matter how much he suffers. He does not just ride on the pain train, he takes multiple rides like a carousel. Choo-choo! In order to explain the tough situation that Subaru is in, the author makes him go through every logical option and fail in the process. He cannot help out Emilia as he's useless against Lai and he's very weak to his cheat teleportation skill. He's way too weak to be able to do anything against Reid. If they try to gang up on Lai, Reid will just stroll through the tower and stomp Subaru because he's annoying, which he has a point. And he cannot protect Melee by himself, and after a certain timer, Shaula kindly sends Subaru to his next try. So Subaru is stuck in a situation where he has too many fires to put out and not enough resources to deal with them, and this starts getting emphasized by the author even doing a round summary, which I can't recall he ever did, where Subaru is so desperate he just starts using his life as a resource. Just put it on the tab, bro, I'm here all day. Even Lai makes fun of Subaru for this.
Nice, mister, is that how you're planning to go to the next one?
This is my Lai voice. It's kind of high-pitched to sound childish, but also with a certain tint of perversion. And having villains aware of Subaru's power is a super fun dynamic, not only because of the trash talk, but also because if the villain has 2 brain cells, so one more than Lai has, they could make life very difficult for Subaru. As a side note, if you want to watch something like that, Summertime Rendering is a lot more battle shonen-y than ReZero is, but has a fun time loop dynamic between hero and villain. Anyways, because Subaru is stuck in a situation that will always result in failure, he has to somehow better his game pieces, namely himself. He's under this illusion that the previous Subaru was this incredible guy with some sort of incredible ability, and he didn't just brute force his way through every problem by resetting over and over, which... so naive. And so Subaru goes through his books, reliving the memories of arcs 1 to 5, and I like how this chapter is sort of sad but also funnily self-aware. Subaru is reading these books like, this guy's a maniac, and I'm like, yep, it's you, buddy. The confrontation between Amnesia Subaru and past Subaru is incredible in many ways, and apparently there is not a consensus in the community, so here's my interpretation. Like I said in the previous review, in ReZero there seems to be this belief of the core of a person, the heart, the soul, whatever grandiose term you want to come up with. While your memories can shape you, yes, they do not single-handedly define you. For example, if Julius lost all of his memories and was put into Subaru's situation, he would act very differently because they are fundamentally different people, memories or not. So in this situation with the merger, I don't see it as the fusion of 2 different people because they're not 2 different people. They're both Subaru. They're just both incomplete and have different memories. So when they both have the same memories, they become the same Natsuki Subaru. And if you're asking yourself, was this whiteboard an impulsive buy that I'm retroactively trying to justify by putting in these skits in the video? Shut up. The Subaru we accompanied in volumes 24 and 25 was incomplete, and now that he has all of his memories, he's once again the protagonist we once knew. Hopefully my interpretation makes sense to you guys, since the whole there's 2 different Subarus theory never really made sense to me. In this tremendous scene, the main thing that stood out to me was that Subaru for the first time really appreciates himself, and this is very significant because he has a lot of imposter syndrome. People admire him, but only he knows how much he had to sacrifice to get these outcomes. Subaru has said many times that he hates himself because only he knows how inadequate he is, how much he failed to save the people that he loves, and yet he keeps pushing through, he keeps resetting, no matter how much suffering he goes through, and that to me is quite heroic, and it seems that Subaru is starting to see it as well. In his own words, he's an amazing guy, and I'm really happy that he's starting to become proud of who he is, because while he may not be as reliable in combat as Emilia, or Ram, or Julius, or Reinhardt, or any character really besides Petra, I guess, he's still an amazing guy, and he's the best at what he does, which is just suffer, but it's a cool skill. The absolute mental breakdown that Louie goes through when she suffers just a tiny bit of what Subaru does is so satisfying. It works as both a retribution to a despicable villain and also as a sort of meta-narrative slap in the face to the fans that say, "Oh, Subaru is not utilizing his power properly." Bro, he's going through a lot. This isn't just loading a save state on a video game. And with his newfound confidence, Subaru is an absolute alpha male in some of these conversations. Like I warned you, you'll definitely regret it. Yeah, I really am incredible, Natsuki Subaru. It's weird, turns out I'm really something. If it was any other protagonist, I would just cringe, but because it's Subaru, he's earned it. He deserves a little bit of an ego trip. He's gone through a lot. Having said all this, Subaru may talk a big game, but he's still a softie at heart. Despite saying that he would not save Louie, at the end of the book we see that he does save her. Why would he save an archbishop after 6 story arcs? I think we've gone through this already. This decision will probably come back to haunt him, but hey, it's Subaru, he does what he does. And when Amnesia Subaru is going through old Subaru's memories, he wrongly comments that RBD is a useless ability, which I get you're frustrated, buddy, but that is objectively false. And thankfully for Subaru, he is no longer just simply relying on meeting his ultimate demise in order to reset. Oh no, my man is stacking magic and authorities, and honestly, he's becoming quite an overpowered main character. And I know that ReZero is supposed to be a sort of subversion of usual isekai, but Subaru is becoming quite OP himself. He compensates for his lack of magic ability by simply outsourcing it to Beatrice, and the author said that he has a mana problem, but he never really specified what the limit is, and in this volume, he seems to me like he uses a lot of spells and he doesn't really suffer for it, so that's taken care of. Then he has Invisible Providence, which, you know, it's a bit of a meme, but small fist go boom, he can now fist his enemies. Invisibly. And he now has Corleones, which honestly is mega overpowered for Subaru. In context of a video game, for example, Subaru is not a carry, but he's a mega OP supporting character. He's just so good. He has an inbuilt radar for his allies, and now he can share damage between them. This seems mega broken, and I'm super happy that Subaru actually has a very useful ability now. And in my view, he's becoming overpowered in a way that is satisfying to read and creates and promotes good narrative tension. He doesn't just solve every problem by just blasting foes away, he has to still deal with things in an intelligent way that is very cool to read. And if he gets the factor of gluttony as well, that is mega hyped. I was howling when they spared Roy, because I think that will come back to bite them, the Shiryu situation as well, but I was hoping for Subaru to get on his grind, to just catch them all. I want Subaru to have all the authorities. That would be mega hype. Let me know in the comments what you think. Am I overrating Subaru's current abilities, or is he packing some heat? And speaking of gluttony, the cliffhanger of volume 25 is Rem is back, baby. And of course she doesn't remember anything, because she hasn't suffered enough yet. According to the author, not according to me. I think she's done well, she served her time, please let her go. I'm very hyped for Arc 7 and for Rem's redevelopment as a character. I think it's going to be great. However, I'm a bit worried that our socially inept main character once again failed to make a good first impression. We as the reader know what he means, but saying "I'm your hero" to someone who doesn't remember you is probably not a great choice. Subaru may leave the cringe, but the cringe does not leave him. And think about this, he said that while probably still having saliva in his face from being licked by Louis. Not looking good, bro. And one last thing, I promise I'm going to talk about the other characters, but I just made way too many notes for Subaru, and I have to address this. In the Empress version, Subaru says this: "Hey Meili, do you want to be my girl when this is all over?" Officer, it's this one, right here. This is thankfully a mistranslation. The original line does not have any romantic or seductive connotation to it, plus we know that Subaru is into old ladies. Meili does not fit his particular tastes. Moving on to Julius, I absolutely loved his development in this volume. I never really hated Julius as much as most people in the ReZero community. I think, for example, in volume 4 the main villain was Subaru. He was a complete idiot in that volume, but still I never expected to like Julius so much. He managed to overcome his inferiority complex with the Astrayas, something that was delved deeper in volume X4, but still even in the main story it was clear that his relationship with Reinhardt was complicated. Julius also has a bit of imposter syndrome. He feels very inadequate compared to the Sword Saint, and looking back it's quite funny how Subaru and Julius have some of the same character flaws, they just manifest in wildly different ways. The trust that Subaru and the other characters have on Julius really rubbed off on him to be able to face what is arguably one of the most overpowered characters in the entire series. Julius finally managed to accept himself for who he is and not be envious of his more capable friend, and I really like that his development went in a way that is not the usual. At one point, Reid is almost trying to mentor him to get him to give in to his wild side and become a stronger combatant, but Julius does not wield or seek strength for the sake of strength. He seeks it for the sake of his values, how much he values knighthood, and I really like that he would rather be slightly weaker but stay true to himself. That fits his character perfectly and is a great development for him. There is one nitpick I do have for this part of the story though, which is the Julius storyline was so good that it completely overshadowed and almost discarded the entire Anastacia subplot. This read like Julius's conflict was the only thing that mattered the entire time, and as soon as he had his epiphany, the Anastacia storyline just magically resolved itself. I don't think this is the last we see of Anastacia. Maybe at some point we even go to Kararagi, which, web novel readers, please no spoilerino in the comments, please. But I don't know, this whole Anastacia situation felt very anti-climactic, like it was just rushed. I even did a double take to see if I skipped a page or something. I guess I just didn't expect this to be resolved in such a simple way. It felt a bit of a letdown. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the Anastacia subplot. Did you think it was good, or am I being too harsh? Let me know. Moving on to Emilia, a lot of you in the comments told me that she would shine at the end of Arc 6, and boy did she shine bright. This is particularly relevant for those of us that read the Battle Ballad of the Sword Devil. You can check my video on that as well. But did Emilia just solo Volcanica? What? Obviously there is a lot of asterisks here. She didn't actually defeat Volcanica, and Volcanica, as he is now, would get along extremely well with my grandfather. They both have the same level of dementia, but still, it was super impressive. She's out here making ice clones that look like Subaru. They even come back after defeat, which is a great thematic nod, and I just have to see this scene animated. I am so hyped for the anime adaptation of Arc 6. This scene in particular is going to be gorgeous. The entire fight was amazing, and Absolute Zero is such a nerdy, overly dramatic name that it fits as a suggestion from Subaru perfectly. And I love seeing Emilia once again kicking butt, dragon butt, being the overpowered epic heroine that we all deserve. She never lost hope, she did a trial by herself, just incredible stuff. Now, there is a but, and I do not mean glutes. I know that I'm always harping on Emilia, but there is one thing that kind of annoyed me about this volume, and it's my biggest criticism of volume 25. Both Subaru and Emilia kind of didn't make a big deal out of Emilia being forgotten, which is a huge deal, it's a monumental deal, and it was just a weird plot point that was just kind of swept under the rug and didn't seem to be super relevant, and I don't understand why the author did this. We as readers know that there is zero chance that Emilia stays forgotten. The entire witch cult relationship storyline would fall apart, the entire royal selection storyline would fall apart, pretty much the entire story would fall apart. I know that Ram stans will not like to hear this, but Emilia as a character in context of ReZero is much more relevant than Ram or even Julius. She could not be forgotten. The entire story would just stop making sense. So I thought that she would be remembered once Lai was defeated, much like Ram and Julius, but that did not happen. Only she got remembered back, and I have to wonder why. Unless they give a solid reason as to why Emilia seemingly has plot armor while the other characters still have to struggle, then I really hate this plot point. It goes against the essence of ReZero. Actions have consequences. Subaru, even with his ability, can't always save everybody. It's why, for example, the loss of Ram hurts so much. I really hope that they explain this whole gluttony authority further down the line, because I really didn't like this. I don't think that it's a coincidence that two of the gluttony siblings are still alive. I think the author will delve further into gluttony later down the story, but still, with the information we have as of Arc 6, this did not seem super satisfying. And the thing that annoyed me the most was that neither Emilia nor Subaru really seemed to care a lot, and that just blew me away. And I know that Subaru has his reasons to not want to reset anymore, he does not want to risk going back to the corridor of memories, but still his lack of urgency just feels so weird and out of character. I don't know, let me know in the comments, am I being too harsh, or did this also not make a lot of sense to you? Anyway, this video is getting a lot bigger than I'm used to, so allow me to quickly address Rum. Rum is the best, I love her. Rum is the type of person that in real life I would never be in a relationship with, but I would love to be her friend. She's hilarious. She just says the most burning disses while being so blunt about it and having such a high opinion of herself. She's just so funny. The way she insults Subaru while caring for him at the same time in a big sister sort of way is just so endearing and really makes me laugh. She is the roast master, and seeing a mere glimpse of her former glory was already enough for me. I think the author said in some interview that Rum will likely never get her horn back, and to be quite honest, I don't really care, because to me the main highlight of Rum is her thorny personality. And yes, I know that she is a massive underdog, but to me, she is, in the race for ReZero, best girl. And yes, I know that she's not as popular as Emilia or Rem or even characters like Capella because some of you are sick demented freaks. However, to me, she is just the funniest character in all of ReZero. All hail Big Sister. For some final considerations on the Pleaides Watchtower, I will confess maybe I'm dumb, but I didn't understand what the point of the 5th rule was. I was expecting Emilia to clear the trials and then to forcibly destroy Reid and make Shaula go back to normal, but that is not what happened. And unless I missed something, they never really quite explain what rule was broken that made Shaula go berserk. Was it a part of the tower getting destroyed? I always assumed that's it, but they never quite explained it. And also, will they explain why Volcanica was there and why wasn't he taking his medications and what is up with the underground? They never quite explained it, so I guess we will have to wait for a future arc. I don't know. Now, I have an announcement, and do not worry, this series is going nowhere. This is probably my favorite series that I do for this YouTube channel and one of the reasons I started making videos in the first place, so this series will continue. Having said that, I have had enough of the dreadful Yen Press release schedule. It is just so bad, and with series like Overlord you can kind of get away with it because each volume is usually a self-contained story. That is not the case with ReZero. ReZero has so many details and callbacks that this reading experience for Arc 6 has truly been awful, even though the arc itself is amazing, and in the future, I will reread Arc 6 all in a row to really get the full experience. For those of you that are light novel only like me, I'm warning you, I went and checked the volume list. Arc 7 has 8 volumes. It is the biggest arc in ReZero up until now, and that means with the Yen Press release schedule, it will take around 2 years, maybe even more. So I was thinking after Arc 6 of jumping maybe into some if stories, maybe some side stories. Screw all that, I am jumping straight into the web novel. I will no longer browse the ReZero subreddit and Wikipedia in fear of being spoiled. I will no longer hesitate to read your comments. I am now web novel pilled. Rawr. So what this means is that I will start reading the web novel from Arc 7, and the only change for this series is that now, much like I did for Arcs 1 to 4, I will be giving my volume reviews while knowing what happens ahead. So sometimes I will wink at you and perhaps you wink back. And for those of you that liked watching me struggle like a blind man navigating through the darkness, then maybe I'll make some web novel videos, we'll see. And thankfully now the poor Monokuma is spared from further physical punishment, especially because I would have to start escalating things, and by volume 40 I would just be pile driving him through a flaming table, which you would watch that, don't lie, but I think it's probably better this way. Let's keep him where he is. And that is it. This video is huge for my standards. I've been recording for way too long, my voice hurts. And for those of you that said that Arc 6 was the best, you were right. It has now overtaken Arc 3 as my favorite arc. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and ciao!